Hi, I'm Allison. Today I want to break down how our nervous system works. Our nervous system is a huge part of how we function in the world and how our bodies are perceiving the environment around us. So today I want to break down Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory and some of the work of Dan Siegel and Pat Ogden and some of these amazing somatic therapists who are doing incredible research to help us better understand our bodies. I think of our bodies like these incredible vehicles. They have so many resources already woven within them. Our bodies are designed to keep us safe and to keep us going and to be able to regulate. But most of us don't understand what's going on in our bodies, and no one ever taught us this. A lot of this research is really new and cutting edge, and I find it deeply empowering to have an understanding of what's going on in our physical body and how that's helping us to make sense of the world around us. So I'm going to draw a little diagram out, and thank you for joining me with this, and I look forward to hearing what you think after you learn a little bit more about polyvagal theory. All right, so let's break down polyvagal theory. So, in our nervous system, we have this big nerve called the vagus nerve. Vagus means wandering, and that's because it wanders all over our entire body. And we've got these three systems. We've got the social engagement system, and this part of the vagus nerve is called the ventral vagal nerve. Then we've got our sympathetic nervous system. And this is where we're a little bit more hyper-aroused. How do you spell arousal? All right. And this is where we're mobilized. So then we've got parasympathetic. And this is our dorsal vagal. This is an old part of our brain, kind of like the reptilian brain. And this is for immobilization. So basically, it's kind of like this. If everything's good, we're in our green zone here. We're safe. As we start to sense some danger, we go into here. And this is where you get fight or flight. And then when we're really not safe and the brain senses that we're close to death or a life threat, it completely shuts us down. And this is where we end up here in our freeze response. So all of these different parts can work well when we're safe, right? And when we're safe, what this looks like up here is being cool, calm, collected. We're able to make eye contact, and we're reading people's faces. It's really important to be able to read people's faces. A lot of information comes from our facial features. We sense compassion, we sense connection, and that's where we start to feel socially engaged and connected, right? And when we're moving between these two systems really well, we can also have a sense of playfulness, we can have a sense of sensuality, right? And when we jump into our sympathetic nervous system, when we're in a safe space, this is also where we get teamwork or team sports, where we might do active yoga or exercise, where we can do things like art or creation, and connective things like sex or sexuality. When we're in our parasympathetic nervous system and we're safe, this is where we can rest. Some people might have heard this connected to rest and digest, because digestion's happening here. We can experience things like meditation, trance states, hypnosis, prayer, right? So what happens if we're not safe? And let me be clear, sometimes through neuroception, which means that our nervous system is sensing the environment around us, we're sensing that we're not safe, even if we're objectively safe. So for example, if my dog starts barking really loud, my neuroception, if my nervous system is a little more fried and taking in a lot more information, might sense that my dog barking means I'm not safe, even though he might just be barking at the mailman, and that's a safe thing, right? So let's see what happens in these three systems here when we're not safe. And let me just preface this with, all of these things that are happening are well-functioning survival mechanisms. So it doesn't actually mean that something's wrong with you. This is what our system is designed to do, right? They're safety seeking. It's trying to get us safe and keep us safe. And if we're not feeling safe and we're in this ventral vagal system, what you might notice going on as we shift into fight or flight might be things like controlling behaviors, manipulation. You might see things like negotiation. You're getting a test on my spelling skills here. You might see passive-aggressive behavior. We might see things like lying or denial. And then as we get into this fight or flight system, our sympathetic nervous system, this is where we're mobilized. We're gonna do something about our experience of not being safe, right? So you might see that fight response, which can be emotions such as frustration, irritation. And notice how these are getting more and more severe as we go through. So frustration, irritation, anger, all the way to rage, which is a really big emotion, right? And if we're in our flight response, you might see things like worry, anxiety, fear, maybe even panic. And then if our body starts to sense, hey, this is really not safe, we are experiencing a life threat, then we go to our freeze response. And what that can look like is emotions such as feeling helpless. And we even get a raised tolerance for pain, which means we can experience more pain. We might feel numb. We might be dissociated. We might feel trapped or feel hopeless. We might feel shut down or experience shame, right? This is where we go into passive defense. So actually, when we're here and we're really not feeling safe, what our body's doing is trying to preserve us at all costs, which means that we actually increase our fuel storage, our ability to sort of metabolize food, and we actually get more rush of endorphins to help us manage pain. So think about, like, if you're in a car accident and you're trapped in your car, you might be in this freeze response. In order to manage that pain, you get a rush of endorphins, right? So that's where we see our higher threshold of tolerance for pain. We might see our pupils constrict, right? We're gonna have decreased, think about like being frozen. We're gonna actually have a decrease in our body temp. We're gonna have a decrease in our heart rate, in our blood pressure, in our muscle tone. And this is where you see things like memory loss and even fainting, right? Sometimes we just faint when we're so overwhelmed, so overloaded in our nervous system, this dorsal vagal tone or a dorsal vagal response can look like just straight up fainting. So if we kick out, if we can sense and something kind of goes on and we're like, okay, I'm not in a total life threat, I'm more in fight or flight. What's going on in that system is an increase in blood pressure, increase in our heart rate. We're gonna have the hormone adrenaline pumping through, and maybe you've had that adrenaline rush, like you've had to slam on the brakes really fast in your car and suddenly your heart is going ba-boom, 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 ba-boom really fast and our breath is increasing. That's sort of our mobilization response. We're gonna do something here, and we have adrenaline and cortisol and some of these hormones to help us do that. And you might notice that your pupils dilate in this place. And also, we're gonna have a dilation of the bronchi, which means that you're actually taking in more air, right? It's causing us to breathe more. In this place, your blood is actually gonna rush away from your core organs and into your extremities. So you might have more blood flow through your arms and legs to either fight off a stressor or to run away and flee. So what we see is a decrease in digestion, decrease in fuel storage, decrease in our insulin. It's also a decrease in our ability to socially negotiate, which means we're going to be a lot more in our anger and irritation and frustration and not quite have the same skills to be able to engage and connect. When we're up here in our social engagement response, what we're going to be seeing in our body is our ability to breathe easily and naturally, our ability to be oriented to time and place, increase in digestive response in a healthy way. We're also going to have an increase in things like our skin and our face. So increase in blood flow to skin, face, limbs, things like that. And we're going to have a decrease in defensiveness. And that's because we're going to have a hormone kind of called oxytocin. And that's the same hormone that's released right after a baby's born. Think about how we regulate in this system. So how we would regulate is a calm voice. I want you to imagine if you have a child or maybe you have a beloved pet, how we talk to them. Like if we're talking to an infant or a pet, we might talk in this tone and it's sort of tilting and it goes kind of like a calm mother, like, hey, it's okay, we're all good, right? And if you hear somebody do that, it might help you to make eye contact with them, to read the calm in their face. Our vagus nerve is designed to what's called co-regulate off of other people. So if we're up here in our social engagement system, we might be able to co-regulate off of other people who are calm and safe and collected. But if we start to sense that someone's being controlling or manipulative or they're not a safe person, we very quickly can get into a dysregulated state together as a group. So it's really important that we be aware of our body's own response system. 80% of the vagus fibers are sensory, which means they're taking messages out of the body and sending it straight up to your brain. So a lot of therapeutic work is all about cognitive work. But if we're not even in our brain, like if our body's sensing that we're not safe, we're not going to be able to do some of this cognitive work. We've got to find ways to kind of pull ourselves up into that social engagement system. One way we can do that is by taking deep breaths. If our body senses that we're taking deep breaths, it kicks us back up into this engagement system. Or maybe we do something like humming. Because if we're humming, we wouldn't be humming if there was a tiger in the room. We would be breathing really, really heavily, right? Or if there was a major threat. So humming, singing, slow, mindful, melodic voice can help us kick back up into this system, right? And Things like yoga and mindfulness help to improve our vagal tone, which means how quickly, when we've got a trigger or something that doesn't feel safe, how quickly can we bring ourselves back into a state of safety. And what we're looking for here is not to just be in one part of our vagal system. We don't want to just be up here. We need all parts of this. We need to be able to move fluidly between our sympathetic and parasympathetic, because as you can see over here, all of these parts of our nervous system play an important role even when we're feeling safe. And so what we're looking for is sort of like a homeodynamic relationship between all these parts of our nervous system, that they can move very fluidly between each other. And as we're doing our practices like our mindfulness or our yoga or our breath work, or even singing or talking to people in a group, all of those things help us to begin to more quickly move up into a state of safety, right? So this can be a helpful tool to better understand maybe what goes on in your own life, in your own nervous system. Sometimes I see clients coming in who are talking about, maybe there's a situation and maybe one partner is in fight or flight and pacing and worrying and trying to take action, and another partner is frozen. And so this partner is running around really, really fast trying to fix things, and this partner is just stuck and frozen. Both of those are dysregulated states, right? And we just want to come back up here to a place where we can co-regulate off of each other and come up with a game plan in a cool, calm, collected way. So I'm looking forward to hearing how this lands for everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into this diagram. And I'm going to put a lot of extra resources about this and links in the notes underneath the video. So please tune into that for a little more information.